Hello everyone, today we're going to be looking at a scenario of what if Europe from WICSO had its own country draft. Now this is a scenario that is a little weird to do because obviously we are not on the map with the colors for each and every country. Of course, each of these guys has their own color that they're usually associated with. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to be using this blank map as you saw at the beginning of the video, because to put it simply, you can't really tell what's going on because we're gonna have the entirety of Europe at a war. So if I don't have this kind of blank map, then it's just gonna be a very annoying to look at alliance map that would be very hard to keep track of. And I honestly don't want to do that because then you'd have to turn the alliance layer off like on and on again over and over just to see which countries are on which side, and that doesn't seem as entertaining. And plus, this will kind of like allude, is allude the right word? But like, it'll reference Ada's Pro in a way, at least his country drafts, because this is obviously completely different given that we have very different countries. More particularly, I'm looking over here at the Balkans. In real life, the Balkans is a very, very diverse region. Many different ethnicities exist there, and it's just a lot. Whereas most of the countries in Europe are over here in Western Europe, this kind of area, and the Northern Italian area. So, yeah, of course, I do want to remind viewers that this is my own special WICSO map that I've created for WICSO scenarios. So this isn't any specific episode or anything. I have the full video of the map on my channel. Go watch that. I'm not gonna link it anywhere because it should just be pretty recent still. Honestly, I have no idea. This is my fifth attempt at recording a video. I've been sick, I've been busy, and I've been dealing with a lot of interruptions whenever I record. And plus, a lot of these recordings haven't turned out how I want them to. But that's enough yapping from me, so I'm just gonna jump right on into this video. Now, the question becomes, which two countries will get drafting priority? And based on where I'm kind of going already, I feel like the two countries that would kind of make most sense for this are the Russian country and the Ukrainian country. Why these two? Well, I feel like if it was the two strongest, which would most likely be Norway and the Dutch, it'd be it wouldn't be as interesting of a scenario because then it'd be like the Dutch are surrounded on all sides, and that kind of prevents the Dutch from really doing anything. And it's always a good thing to see the most powerful country actually pulling weight on their team. And I feel like, at least in some country draft scenarios, like I can't remember back, but if there's a North American one, then it's barely a video because, well, the American country is absolutely decimating the rest of North America. And same for South America. Brazil's decimating there. Oceania, Australia's cooking. Africa, Asia, and Europe are kind of the only continents that can really be done that way. With WICSO, it's a little different because obviously there are no superpowers on this map. I mean, the closest thing you probably have is probably China, I want to say. South China, down here is probably one of the only countries that isn't nerfed. So I feel like power is the wrong way to gauge this. And I feel like regional rivals is a better way to go off of this. And yeah, that's what we're going to be seeing here. Another example of regional rivals would be, um, I guess, the two countries over here in Iberia, Galicia and Andalusia. But as of recently, that's kind of been diffused, I guess. But yeah, I feel like this is the best example, so that's what we're gonna be going off of. And the way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna let the red team pick first, and the red team will obviously be drafting the strongest country in Europe, which is the Dutch Republic. So that's what we're gonna see happening. They're the first country drafted, and yeah, we're gonna get right into the next draft as the blue team will be picking up Poland. Now, Poland is an interesting country in WICSO because it is large. It is larger than real life Poland, obviously, and it is also pretty, I believe, religiously diverse, if I can pull that up. No, it isn't. I'm thinking of the Farmers Union. But it's an interesting country to talk about because historically this guy has been folded very many times. They literally just got folded in episode 99, and I kind of find that funny, but yeah, hopefully Poland will not be folding as quickly today. And now we see the next pick going to the red team, and that's going to be Norway. And I know I said Norway would probably be the second strongest, but I feel like the blue team would probably play strategical here. Of course, Ukraine and Poland are pretty close in WICSO, and I feel like these two would probably like to team up. Ukraine probably sees an advantage against Russia that Russia can't really get on Ukraine, obviously, because Ukraine's capital is a little more blocked off by the fact that it's on a peninsula. And I feel like the Russians don't see any point in choosing countries to target the team leader, I guess, in a way. But unlike I think in draft scenarios, it might have been different scenarios, but if the team leader got out, it kind of like fell apart. That's not what we're going to be doing here. And yeah, let's keep going. And we're going to see the next pick for the blue team. And I'm kind of looking around, and I feel like the country that makes the most sense would probably be Germany here. They are a pretty economically developed area, and we know that because they've been a part of the Dutch country for very long. They were part of a Russian puppet state, which probably saw prosperity. And having independence in a region that's pretty geographically prosperous, other than the fact that you're very easily invadable, is a pretty, I guess, positive factor in your strength. So yeah, we're gonna see them getting picked. From here, we're gonna see the red team picking the, I guess, probably next strongest country, which will go ahead and be the Greek country. Now, Greece, I don't see what a real advantage in picking them is, because Greece is kind of isolated in its own little region here, because, well, they're on one edge of Europe. Crete will Actually, I might include Crete in this video because I mean it does have Crete, which is its main focus. That's European, but yeah, from here there's not really much else in Europe, so they're probably a good pick to like create an extra front. From here, we're gonna see the blue team picking the next strongest country, which at this point will probably be Andalusia. I have no idea though. From here, we're going to see the red team countering this with Galicia. That makes so much sense. These two probably could fight each other for a while, but eventually Andalusia would win. From here, we see Ireland getting picked. They're probably the next strongest country. They are a pretty historic country. They were a former colonizer, and they are definitely a notable country in the series, and they could probably do a lot despite their shrunken down size here. From here, it gets a little more complicated, but I feel like they probably still go in order of strength. So France would probably be the next pick, another former colonizer, and they are also a pretty historic country again. And yeah, they have a lot of valuable land down here in this area, so they could be of great advantage for the blue team. From here, it gets a little more complicated because the next strongest country is probably the English. No, Farmers Union. So yeah, we're gonna see the Farmers Union getting drafted over to the blue team, and from here, the red team will go ahead and pick East Russia. And East Russia is again another interesting country to pick because it is on the very edge of Europe. I'm not gonna be picking the Siberian country or the pink team, and I'm also not going to be picking Caucasia, so these two are the only areas that really border the rest of this region, so it'd be interesting to see how this kind of front plays out here. From here, the blue team will kind of pick to counteract this, as they're going to be picking Astrakhan, which is a pretty good counter. They have, I believe, pretty valuable Russian land. I don't know much about this region, so it could be a lot less valuable, but I don't know. From here, we're going to see the red team picking up Finland. it kind of secures this whole geographic region, which is kind of bad for the blue team. But then again, you could kind of just close that off and they'd kind of just be a bugger against you while you clean up the rest of the continent. So who knows? From here, we're going to see the blue team picking a country to counteract a red team pick, and that is Crete. I've decided they will be included in this video. I feel like it'd feel a little more empty if they weren't included. So yeah, they're going to be getting picked here. From here, the red team will be picking up the next strongest country, which at this point is the Southern Italian Federation. Did I call it the Confederation or Federation? Probably Federation, but yeah, they're going to get picked here. And from here, we see the blue team countering this pick with a pick in the English country, which is a pretty, again, interesting country because this is the same color as the pink English country that I believe existed right after World War II, maybe? And then it collapsed into all the different English countries. It was a very short union, but I feel like if I had all the English countries here, it'd be a little more complicated. So I just brought back Scotland and this little guy here. I don't know if this blue one's ever been a country in this region, but it is now. And yeah, let's get on to the next pick as the red team will be picking up they're going to be picking up the Dalmatian country. And this will be countered by a blue team pick in Rome, who is pretty historic, but in this state, they're probably kind of weak. I intend to record a Roman Empire video sometime soon, so yeah, hopefully you get your shine sometime soon, Rome. You're probably one of my favorite countries in the series. But yeah, let's move on to this next pick, which will be a red team pick, and they will be going ahead and picking the country of Azov over here in the Black Sea area. Again, another side pick, and it kind of creates yet another new front line. At this point, the red team has kind of resorted to creating a whole bunch of front lines. The blue team has kind of been grouping their powers together. They have three here that are grouped together. They're not red. I just had that color in my fill. But yeah, that's what we're gonna see being picked. From here, the blue team will be making a interesting choice because they will be picking up the country of Estonia, which is a weird pick because Estonia is pretty weak, and it's really only their geographic position that would serve any use to the blue team because it kind of counteracts the Finns and Norwegians a little more. It creates a little more of a little bump in the road. So yeah, and we're gonna kind of see the red team counteracting this as they want to hold their influence in the Baltic Sea. So they're gonna be picking up Denmark. From here, the blue team will get an advantage pick as they will be going ahead and picking the I had a country in mind. Who was I gonna pick? Oh yeah, Catalonia. They're gonna be picking up Catalonia, a pretty weak country. Geographically, they're decently hard to invade, but yeah, they're gonna be getting picked up here. And soon after this, the red team will be picking this blue country in northern Italy. The blue team will counter this choice with this lime country in Italy. The red team will counter that with Lyon, and the blue team will counter that with Austria. From here, valuable countries are dropping like flies, and one of the last valuable countries that will be chosen by the red team, as the St. Petersburg country will be chosen, which connects very loosely a very large part of the red team, and the blue team could also achieve that if they pick any of these three countries or all three of them. But yeah, from here we're gonna see the blue team going off of literally what I just said. They're gonna be picking this Hungarian country here. The red team will counteract this by going in a completely different region and picking up the central English country. Once again, doing what they do best and creating a brand new front line over here in England. This country is definitely going to get swept away, and even if they pick Scotland, this front line is not lasting but a minute. From here, the blue team will be picking up the Krakow country. I don't know if it has Krakow or if I'm even saying that right. But yeah, the most polluted city in the world, I believe. So yeah, they're gonna get picked. From here, we see yet another new front line emerging as, yeah, the Danzig kind of country will be picked by the red team. The blue team at this point will pick this kind of Serbian Montenegrin country here. And yeah, at this point, we see the red team picking Bulgaria, which kind of reinforces Greece. But that's kind of the only remaining country that could really defend itself left in Europe. So it's going to be interesting what the remaining picks of this will be looking like. The first, I guess, bad pick will be by the blue team. They're going to be picking up Brittany. From here, the red team will be picking up the country of Iceland, which I don't see why you would do that. It's in the middle of nowhere, it's completely isolated. But maybe they can provide some kind of resource to Norway and the Dutch. Who knows? From here, the blue team will be picking up the Arkhangelsk country, which for a change will give the blue team a new front to focus on. It gives a distraction definitely to the red team because this guy could not hold its own weight against probably even the St. Petersburg country, if I'm going to be honest. This guy is pretty cold. Nobody lives here, so yeah, they're going to get picked. From here, the red team will be picking up a pretty useless country, not the blue team. I picked the blue color. And they're going to be picking up Corsica. From here, the blue team will be picking up Scotland. Of course, that counteracts the front line that literally just formed here. It completely wastes a red team pick, basically. And yeah, suck that Central English country here. Anyways, from here, we're going to see the red team getting this guy, and the blue team will be picking the Swiss country. And now with this, Europe is, I believe, fully divided. And now we can begin this war scenario. Now, where do I want to start? Well, I'm going to start over here in Western Europe with this guy who is going to get absolutely annihilated off the map. I don't know what this country has of relevance, but even if they had anything, it doesn't matter because they're gonna get obliterated from three sides. Navally on your west coast, from the south, conventionally, and from the north, conventionally as well. And this guy is the first country to lose the war, and that's accounting for other fronts as well. They're gonna get wiped out pretty quick. Soon to fall is the Brittany country. They are really only a distraction, and they're going to lose their capital. A few Irish forces will dock here to kind of distract. They have an escape plan, but they want to kind of slow down the Dutch, and they will be successful in that because when the Dutch start moving into this Central European area, it's going to get bad for the blue team. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, we now head over to Iberia, where the Andalusians are, of course, a little stronger than the Galicians, and they're going to begin several small incursions into Galicia, although none really do anything much. And I feel like at this point we can now enable our military bases, ports, and major cities, so this war looks a little more detailed and a little more fun. As you can see, the Galicians have lost a port and a major city. That's not a major city, that is a major military base. I'll leave that in the video, honestly. And yeah, we're gonna head over to Catalonia, where the exact opposite will be happening, as France's forces are focused down on the Catalan country. And I'm gonna be honest, each time I've recorded this video, there have been different sides. Catalonia has not been on the blue team once, and I keep changing my mind. But yeah, we're gonna see Catalonia getting invaded here. They're gonna lose about half of their country, but this is be a little harder to invade territory, I guess, because of course there are mountains here, and that kind of serves as a barrier to kind of block most of the French forces from moving into Iberia. From here, we head over to Denmark, who will not be defeated, but they're gonna be heavily pushed back in the Danish peninsula, and the Germans try to get them out of the way as fast as possible. Unfortunately, however, Norwegian forces are here, and they're trying to reinforce this front with everything they have because this front is very valuable, and if you lose that, then your naval front line in the Baltic Sea is a little threatened, and you don't want that to happen. And speaking of threatened, Danzig is very threatened and will die. Not this island here, but yeah, we're gonna see the Danzig country here dying, as well as this. a massive invasion from all sides will begin on the Dalmatian country. They're going to survive a little bit, but for now, they're going to be losing their outer regions, all these major military bases, most of their coastline, this major city here. And yeah, it's this guy's doomed to fail. Over to the Italian peninsula, we're going to see the Romans beginning an invasion into the Southern Italian Federation. They don't get too far, but they deal quite a bit of damage pretty fast, given that Rome is probably weaker overall than this country. So, yeah, from here, we're going to see red team forces moving out of this cyan kind of country, light blue, and they're going to attack the lime Italian country. And this is kind of a mountain warrior invading, so I don't know how well that's going to go, but good luck to you. Heading over to the Dutch, they're going to send some small early forces into Germany. Of course, they're still moving their forces over from the Brittany front. But yeah, this front will begin, and the Germans are scared for their life because the Dutch would absolutely cook the Germans in a war. Not in real life. Definitely not in real life. Heading over to Greece, we're going to see that they are in a bad situation. They're surrounded on all sides except for navally over here. And yeah, your ally up here, which you were hoping to connect with, is absolutely getting folded from all sides. So then what do? I guess you just invade your weakest neighbor. They kind of just blitz this Montenegrin kind of country, and they're gonna take the valuable land, and they're kind of just build up a defensive line here. And the exact same thing will kind of happen over here in the Farmers Union, but they don't really get anything too valuable, obviously, because the Farmers Union is a pretty strong country. And the Farmers Union is pretty focused on you. They don't have really anyone else to focus on other than maybe their front line in Dalmatia, which is clearing up. And yeah, Romanian, I guess, forces will begin to move into Bulgaria. And this guy is they're scared. They're very scared. And now is the time where we get to talk about the Grecian country, because in this timeline at least, Crete is a pretty militarily fortified island. This thing is hard to navally invade, and so the Greeks will not be able to invade it, at least in the current state of war. They are too focused elsewhere to be able to do anything. And for now, we're just gonna see these two kind of having a staring contest while they fight in the Aegean Sea. There will be no advances in the Aegean Sea for now. Heading up over to the Baltic kind of region, we're going to see Estonia starting an early war advance into the St. Petersburg country. However, this guy is not focused on Estonia because Estonia is about as strong as the St. Petersburg country, if not a little stronger, and they have their allies to back them up. A lot of their focus is over here on Arkhangelsk over here, so we're just gonna see red team forces moving in, immediately seizing this guy's capital, and yeah, this guy's gonna very quickly begin to fold as forces from countries like Finland, Russia, and St. Petersburg are all obliterating the same guy. And at this point, they've already lost all their major cities, which basically constitutes a defeat. They have very little population out of those cities. So yeah, we're gonna see these guys completely surrendering over to the red team. And yeah, the blue team was hoping that would last a little longer, but they expected that to happen anyway, so you can't really be too dissatisfied. So yeah, let's head down to the Republic of Azov here, who Ukraine and Astrakhan are targeting. This guy is getting absolutely bullied. And it's, again, I don't know the geography of this region other than there are mountains down in this area here. And other than that, I don't really know. So, yeah, we're just gonna see these guys invading in. If I get geography wrong, does it really matter? No. This is, of course, a hypothetical scenario with hypothetical countries and a very hypothetical war scenario. A whole continent's not going to end up at war. There's going to be one neutral country there. It'd probably be Iceland or this guy up here. So, yeah, this war is very unrealistic. Countries like Russia and the Norwegians would never team up. Countries like Greece and the southern Italians probably wouldn't team up because of their ties to Rome, and Andalusia would probably stay with the Dutch and French rather than trading being traded for the Galicians. So obviously this is very hypothetical. Heading back down to this guy, they're going to continue losing land as they will lose these two major cities in the north. And at this point, it's like, what are you even fighting for? And your capital will fall. From this point, they're going to lose their coastline. We're going to see this guy surrendering over. Unfortunately for this blue country over here, almost all their forces were allocated to fighting the Azov country, meaning their northern border is looking pretty yummy for the East Russians. And so the East Russians will enter, and the East Russians will devour. And, yeah, I don't know what these guys were expecting, but these guys will be losing a lot of their northern land very early in the war, and this is a bad sign for the blue team because this guy was meant to be decently strong. They were an early pick, have in mind, and they're kind of getting obliterated here. So, what's your plan, blue team? Poland is very set on invading into Russia, and so they will. Will they take anything of value? No, but they'll begin an invasion. And so will Ukraine, as Ukraine also begins to build up fronts in the south. Their main focus is to build upon these two major cities close to the border and kind of just wait for Poland to do their own thing while they move some of their forces back from Azov over here. Because, well, Azov is, of course, fully occupied now. You can get rid of those forces there. So, yeah, in the first few, I guess, weeks of this war, we have seen, I believe, 5 countries fully fall over to an alliance, and we're gonna see some more happening here, as we're gonna head back to Western Europe, as the blue team will be launching an all-out assault on Iceland. Iceland is a weak country that probably doesn't have a military, and they're gonna be losing their entire island. Of course, this guy does have military bases. I only have those here for these war scenarios, but realistically, this island country, as well as probably Greenland and a lot of the Canadian countries, probably don't have militaries. So, yeah. As well as that, a lot of the islands in the Pacific likely don't have military bases, but I have some anyway, just in case scenarios like this go ahead and happen. So, yeah, those will be used here, and Iceland will be falling over to the Irish and English, I guess, nonetheless. So, yeah, now the islanders, if you want to call them, in Great Britain are kind of focused on navally bombarding the Dutch and the Norwegians. And this will come as a severe cost for the Dutch, as the Dutch will kind of be forced to reallocate some of their resources to defending this coast here, where they could be spending that money on their invasion of Germany, which is still going slower than they wish for it. However, at this point, they have captured 4 major cities, which is more than nothing, obviously. So, yeah, the Dutch are still gaining land. From here, we head down to the Iberian Peninsula, where we're going to see the blue team completing their kind of, I guess, goal for now in Galicia, as Galicia will be losing 3 major cities, which kind of sets up a good front over here in Iberia. However, the Catalans will be losing their capital basically immediately, and they're going to be pushed back pretty far to this major city here, which will begin to fall under siege as Andalusian and remainder of the Catalan forces rush to defend the city. Because if this city falls, eastern Iberia is pretty exposed to invasion from the red team, navally, or through their armies. So we're going to see a country helping out, and as I've moved over, we're going to see the blue team helping out. That No, we're going to see Rome helping out. Obviously, they're the blue team because they're an alliance. So, yeah, we're going to see Rome launching a naval invasion of Corsica. And, yeah, hey, that was pretty easy. Let's continue that. They're going to launch an invasion into Sardinia. This does, however, have some repercussions as most of their forces in the Southern Italian Federation will be pushed out, except for a small little bit that will go ahead and hold out onto this military base here. And, yeah, no advances will be made into Rome. Rome is also carrying their weight up here, as they're going to launch a very small yet very effective invasion towards this military base here. They're going to take it with ease. This will relieve a lot of the pressure on the Lime Italian country, as the Blue Italians are forced back to this major city that is within their territory, I believe. Um, that could be up for debate, but yeah, they're gonna flee back to that major city. Now heading over to Dalmatia, yeah. Oh, wrong color. And yeah, we're gonna see Dalmatia falling over to the forces of the blue team. And yeah, it's at this point in the video that I want to say this video is going to be pretty long. Do I have time to edit this? Probably not. I want to upload this soon so I can get back into the habit of uploading. I also hopefully plan to stream the day I'm recording this, which is February 27th. So yeah, what I'm gonna try and do here is I'm probably not gonna edit this all too much except for the beginning and end of it. So yeah, this video might be a lower quality, but it's definitely going to be longer, and it's definitely going to be a little bit of a cooler scenario. So I might do more of these with the expense coming at less editing time, because I'm pretty busy with schoolwork. I'm also pretty busy with playing games in general. I like to keep up with my games, and I guess content creation is kind of a side thing. More so, the content creation I'd like to do. I mean, I like doing mapping, but I feel like streaming is the thing that's more fit for me, because I get to play the games that I would be playing in my off time. And yeah, I find that pretty ideal for what I want to do. And I guess like I haven't played any games that I would stream typically. Like I haven't played on my Terraria world. I haven't played much Minecraft, but I have played Minecraft, but not much like gameplay practice. I've just been playing it for fun, but I haven't really been doing the streaming content, and I kind of want to get back into that. So I guess the expense is smaller video, smaller video length for a lot of the videos, because I do have to record more videos after this, and also less editing done on them. Of course, I don't do much editing in the first place, but it takes a while to just listen through and snip this out. So, yeah, this video is going to be long, as I've said. And yeah, I feel like this, I guess, is probably just not going to be edited. This whole middle section. And yeah, I'm going to stop yapping and get back to the scenario, because I don't like yapping. I feel like it's just prolonging the video. So yeah, let's get into this front line down here. And the Bulgarians are getting cooked. They're going to lose a lot of their valuable land. They're going to lose their two major cities other than their capital, and the gates of the capital will be reached in the north. Greek forces will also be pushed out of this region of the Farmers Union, or Farmers Republic. Sorry. And yeah, the Greeks are seeing their struggles, seeing their first struggles as well. They have this whole area of Europe that's technically at war with them, yet they're not the priority. They're still gonna see a lot of failures, as this Serbian kind of country will see a resurgence. And yeah, the Greeks are at a losing point in this war. They're probably not gonna win unless we like go through the full war and there's only one country left on one side, and then that country surrenders, guaranteeing full victory for one side. So yeah, we're probably not gonna see that, but I don't know yet. Now heading back over to Russia, we're gonna see Poland is pulling off a lot of successes, as they have taken over 3 major military bases from Russia back to back to back. And Russia is pretty scared of this, because now these two are exposed and they're being pushed towards. And the Polish are going to take both of them. Yeah, this front line is progressing not in your favor. So they're going to ask their allies to pull a distraction against the Polish to hopefully alleviate the pressure on the Russian country. And that distraction will be coming, as St. Petersburg will be reinforced with Finnish forces, and Estonian forces will be completely kicked out. That invasion was only done by Estonian forces and a very small amount of Polish forces. From here, we're going to see a very small invasion into this part of Poland as a small distraction, but the greater distraction is a full blown invasion of Estonia, which will happen very, very quickly, and Estonia will be split into two here. These two islands will be taken by Norway navally, and from here, we're going to see northern Estonia falling over to the red team. From here, we're going to see the red team consolidating their front line, as now it's just going to line this northern area here. And yeah, Poland is a little concerned for their safety. Obviously, Norway is one of the strongest countries in Europe. That is not someone you want to fight the full military of. Of course, they also have military personnel over here in Denmark, which, speaking of, we need to update this front line. And yeah, the Norwegians are pushing back against the Germans, as should be expected. And yeah, let's get back to this front line over here in Eastern Europe. We're going to see the blue team dealing heavy damage to Russia. 3 more major military bases will fall, as the Ukrainians have been told to not focus on those 2 major cities and instead on major military bases, because then those major cities would be easier to capture. However, they will also still capture this major city over here in the east, despite shifting their focus. That major city was pretty exposed. It's pretty empty around it, other than this major military base here, so it's not as defended as this major city over here would be, because of course these military bases were here. They're now under foreign occupation, so their forces are probably in the frontline area around it, so it's a little harder to take. So, yeah, that city will remain under Russian control for now. Heading over to the East Russian country, we're going to see the Ukrainians pulling off a small offensive into them, as this is kind of a distraction to help the Astrakhan country, who is moving the forces back up from Azov, to regain a foothold in their northern area, which they will actually be able to do pretty successfully. Power scaling wise, this Astrakhan country is still definitely weaker than East Russia, but they are definitely more than advantaged if you add in Ukraine on Astrakhan's side, because East Russia is pretty low in population, military size, and all the factors. Their economy is probably pretty weak due to their communist history. To be fair, this guy did have a communist history as well. But yeah, let's just continue on with this scenario. Heading back to Western Europe, we head over to the Iberian front, where a counteroffensive will be held, and this major city will fall back under the control of the Galicians. From here, we're going to see the French pulling off a counteroffensive, which will liberate this major city over here. And at this point, the Andalusians are a little stumped. They don't know what to do. First, they're gonna prioritize defending the last major city over here in mainland Catalonia, because that helps protect the rest of your eastern coast, and you don't want that to fall. From here, we're gonna see that they're gonna shift their focus to the coastal region of Galicia, less on the inner area, and on this major city here, which they'll take, and also on continuing northward. So, yeah, Galicia is still under threat. It's just that they're more populated areas under threat, but that's also a little more defendable. So it might be a winning deal, it might be a losing deal. It's too early to tell here. So let's just go to another front line, which is over here in this red team country, the blue Italian country, as they are losing on all their front lines and they just lost their capital. Okay, says the Dutch, why are my allies completely incompetent? Let's do a small invasion of Switzerland to help our allies out. And this goes worse than you'd think it would, and they're only able to seize the western part of the Swiss country. The Swiss will continue to live on. From here, we head down to southern Italy, because, yeah, these guys are now facing the full wrath of Rome, who wants their territory back. And I mean, they also have forces from countries like Austria, the Farmers' Republic, the Hungarian country Poland. Not too many though, but this front line is one of the few front lines that can definitely be won by the blue team if they reallocate resources here. And yeah, they're going to be doing this because the front line in Greece could also be fought much better if the red team was wiped out in Italy, and that's going to be a priority of the blue team, at least for now. Heading over to Greece, they're going to reprioritize as this coastline is being a bugger for them, so why not take it? And so they will. That costs a lot of money, and now the Greeks are very vulnerable, and they're probably even more vulnerable than the rest of the Italian country here, because a lot of their money they just spent was money that would have gone to their navy otherwise. And I guess who just landed in, I guess, the equivalent of Istanbul. The Cretians. You now have a land um, front with the Cretians, which is not good. Also, the Cretians have taken this island, which is a major defeat for the Greek navy. Crete is not meant to be destroying the Greeks right now. Not at all. In a 1v1, Greece would still win, despite their state right now. They're, they weren't losing out on any land before Crete invaded. So, yeah, they'd definitely still be advantaged. Of course, they are losing half of an ally up here. But yeah, at the same time, like, Bulgaria is barely a functioning country at this point. What does it really matter? So, yeah, we're just going to ignore that and head over to this front line because the Norwegians are pulling through for their ally in Russia, as Poland is definitely distracted, and the Baltic region has fallen almost completely under the control of the Red Team. The Red Team is seeing massive success in taking over northern Poland. From here, as well, they will also see great success in liberating Denmark, and they will be pushing up to this major city here, which is at this point still occupied by the Germans. From here, we're going to see Red Team forces completely wiping out this southern part of Germany, and now Germany is backed into a little bad of a corner here. They're in a very bad situation, and they have a couple major cities that are literally on the front line border, and those are some of your most populated major cities. So you don't want to lose those, Germany. And yeah, it's only a matter of time before the Germans inevitably fall to the Dutch. So this Eastern Front needs to be figured out by the blue team. And so the blue team will figure it out as this city will finally fall, and soon after this one will fall as well. From here, a massive offensive will wipe out the three major military bases protecting the capital of Russia, and the Ukrainians will do a very quick operation into the major city beside the capital. Russia is out of time. Polish forces, despite being distracted, will still begin to move into their arch nemesis's territory, as again they are losing their own territory. And yeah, you're cooked. Russia is scared. You know who's also scared? East Russia, because they're still being pushed back over here in Astrakhan, and this should not be happening. What is happening? Can you stop? Oh, guess we have no land gains in you anymore. And yeah, there are no border invasions that are made by the blue team into the rest of East Russia from this point. They don't see a point in invading into this area quite yet, so they're not going to be invading into that area quite yet. Most of the forces that were on this front will be reallocated to this capital city here. And yeah, the war just got heated, but the blue team will be pulling off a very impressive win down here in the Italian peninsula, as the capital of the Southern Italian Federation will be blitzed and captured. From here, they'll reach out to this major military base and port here, isolating this major city, which will surrender. And soon after, this peninsula will too surrender. From here, it becomes a sweep of the rest of the Italian peninsula, as Sicily and Malta will both surrender over, which will end the existence of the Southern Italian Federation. And yeah, the Romans are successful, and that's one less front that this war will be fought on. And now there's really one big front in East Asia, Eastern Europe. There's the front in the Balkans, there's the front in Iberia, and then there's the front in Central Western Europe. And yeah, we're going to see at this point that the English countries, they can't really send as many forces over to Germany anymore. So Germany is heavily disadvantaged, and they're going to see a lot of struggles happening here as they're going to lose this major city here. And then, oh god, they're all falling. Oh gosh, oh no. Germany is absolutely cooked. They've lost, I think, about half their major cities. A lot of their major city is in that kind of Rhine area, similar to real life. So they're going to be losing all that. However, I did say that these guys are not shipping their forces over to Germany anymore. What that means is they're going to be shipped over elsewhere to Iberia. And these forces will massively help out in the Iberian front line, as major city after major city will fall under the control of the Andalusians, as the Andalusians will wipe out all the major cities between them and the capital of Galicia. And yeah, that guy's looking pretty cooked, similar to Germany. Heading back to Germany, we're going to see the rest of the Danish territory being liberated. And at this point, the red team front line has completely technically united except for Greece. The blue team has yet to do that. And they probably won't be able to do that at all because of Andalusia being completely separated. And yeah, the red team is a lot more unified. The blue team was a lot more unified at the beginning of the war, but now the red team is more unified. And the blue team wants to desperately gain that unity, so they want to try and wipe out a large sector of the red team, which can be done if they take the capital of Russia. But for now, Greece remains a thorn in their side, as blue team forces will push up to the border in the Serbian country and in the Farmers Republic, and now they will fully capitulate Bulgaria, and they're right outside of Greece, but they're not really able to invade into Greece because Greece is fortified at this point. They saw the invasion that happened here, and they rapidly began to focus on themselves. They took a lot of their forces out of Bulgaria, leading to that country falling. And now they're kind of just holding a whole bunch of defensive lines on all their borders with the blue team. Because obviously, if they don't, they'd be absolutely obliterated off the face of this earth. Now, we head over to Russia, who will be losing their capital. We now head over to Poland, who will be losing their capital after they lose two more major cities. And yeah, there goes your valuable coastline. That's probably bad to lose, so you're probably gonna try and want to get that back. So yeah, you do that. But your capital still remains a war zone. And yeah, Poland is gonna have to retreat out of Russia, which will cause Russian forces to rapidly push back into this region over here. Small problem for Russia though. They don't have that many forces to really do that. So when they do that, this happens, and a massive circle of Ukrainian forces will just begin to push out. And at this point, a small group of Polish forces will retake this major military base, and then we'll begin to push up to this one. From here, we see a massive encirclement being formed as Ukrainian forces, they saw that advantage point, and they're gonna take it. From here, this major military base down here will fall, as well as this major city. Russian forces will retreat back to this major city here, and they're gonna stay there for a little while. Heading over to East Russia, now forces will begin to enter in as Russia is cooked, and there's a very large valley of opportunity for blue team forces to invade into East Russia as it's really underdefended, and there's a lot of opportunity here. Even Astrakhan will begin their own front line, taking a major military base, and also threatening yet another over here. And yeah, at this point, the blue team is seeing a lot of promise in eventually winning this war in the long run. And a lot of the powers of the red team are seeing failure after failure. Galicia, Russia, and Greece in particular. Norway and the Dutch, however, are still staying strong, and they will for a while. And of course, a lot of countries are not yet to conscription. A lot of them are not even through their reserves. More particularly, Greece just got to their reserves. They still have some of their forces left, but they're now putting their reserves on the front line, so Now Greece is a little more militarized and they're probably going to last a little longer, but with a lot of the front line that was focused on Russia being redirected elsewhere, you're probably going to be the focus of that front line. And so instead of heading over to Western Europe for this next round of frontline changes, we're going to see an invasion of Greece finally beginning, as these guys will burst through the doors and they're going to begin the rapid invasion of Greece. In Greece, they had a defensive going, but it failed miserably. It held up, and then when it saw one sign of failure, it immediately fell apart. This major city will be completely isolated and eventually will surrender on its own terms. And the Greeks will, they're not doing well. The Greeks, they're not too nationalistic, so we're gonna see a lot of their non-city areas falling over to blue team forces. Eventually, this major city will be fully encircled, so they will fall as well. From here, these two will fall, and it just becomes a sweep along this coastline here, which will force the Greeks back to their core territory over here in, well, Greece. And yeah, at this point, Greece is not doing all too well. They're going to be losing yet another major city, then yet another, and then your capital's on the front line, and then you lose your capital. And that invasion of Greece was pretty quick and resulted in their surrender. Let's see what happened during that time. A massive counteroffensive in Galicia. The Dutch have reprioritized themselves to the front line in Iberia, as they see this kind of as their Greece. Iberia is kind of a thorn in their side as they want to try and invade into Germany, but then there are a whole bunch of your allies that are getting cooked in Iberia by the Irish and English forces. You kind of want to cut off that access for the blue team to kind of just flow forces into here. So they're just going to try and stop this, although most of the land they reclaim is on the inland. So, of course, they can still ship into all these ports, which are primarily located in the south here. So, yeah, we're going to see the red team trying to get the naval advantage. But unfortunately for them, the blue team navy has kind of established themselves a pretty solid line here that the red team is unable to penetrate, except maybe Norway in the northern area here. But other than that, probably no one can penetrate this naval blockade, kind of. It's not really a blockade, but it exists. From here, we do see some small invasions that will happen into Andalusia. These will be very small, and they won't really lead to anything other than this major city finally falling. And yeah, Andalusia at this point has secured their eastern coastline, so it's not much to worry about. And yeah, the Dutch are a little panicked here. Of course, I said they took some forces off the German front, so we're going to see some forces pushing back into this German area. Of course, Germany is nowhere near as strong, and even with help, they're probably not going to be able to do too much against the Dutch. So we're going to see them trying to gain as much land as possible, ground between them and other major establishments, major military bases, cities, whatnot. They just want to slow them down so their allies can work a little faster over in their endeavors in Eastern Europe. Heading over to Eastern Europe, we're going to finally see this major city here fall over to the blue team. However, at the same time, not however, because it's the same team, we're going to see the Polish capital being liberated. However, this took a lot of resources, and the Poles are very weak. And hence, we're going to see a massive offensive into Poland in hopes of helping restore a lot of Russia happening. And this will see a lot of success over in the eastern part of Poland. Poland is not looking too well after this. They are losing about a third of their country, maybe a fourth. It's hard to tell, given that, of course, this is a Robinson projection map, I believe, which obviously is not territorial uh, accurate territorially. I'm looking at my globe on my desk here, and I can definitely say Poland is pretty small of a region, and I can't really grasp, even with a globe, how big this Polish country is. So yeah, we're just gonna ignore that for now. Of course, the southern area is larger because it's closer to the equator, but I don't really know how much that works on how, I guess, long Poland is, or tall, I guess it could be defined as. So, yeah, I don't know how big Poland is. It's definitely one of the largest countries in Europe. So, yeah, let's stop talking about that and head over here to Eastern Russia, where these guys have now become the prime focus of Ukrainian forces. When they invaded Azov, they basically said, yo, Astrakhan, you're going to send most of your forces here. We're going to worry about fighting Russia. Once Russia's out of the way, we're going to help you out. Turns out they didn't even need much help in liberating their own territory. And from here, they're kind of enacting their revenge on the East Russians. The East Russians, of course, they're very low in population, as I will say again, and they're going to see a lot of failure here. And eventually, we're going to see them losing these two major cities here, which is kind of a breaking point because then they just shoot up and cut the country in two. And this isolated bit over here will inevitably surrender. It's not going to really fight much longer because there's not much point in fighting much longer because a massive front is fighting on against only you. So yeah, we're gonna continue this way now. We're gonna take the city outside of the capital, that major military base, the northern area, and then oh, there goes your capital. And now you've been reduced to one major city and two major military bases. Heading over to West Russia, we're gonna see that the offensive in Poland didn't really help this front line, but it did definitely help it in Poland. Is now we're going to see Russia beginning to fold. However, Polish forces will begin to move back into this area, and we're going to see another great exchange as the Polish capital will once again be retaken by red team forces, this time with a little bit of a stronger grasp on it because they had a little more planning going into this. When they captured the capital the first time, it was a very quick operation and they couldn't hold on to it for long. They hope that this time that will be a little different and that with Russia gone, they can kind of focus on the Baltic Sea front itself instead of flowing forces into Russia to protect their capital, which is much further because obviously this is the only distance between the Baltic coast and the capital of Norway. And then this is the coast between the capitals of the two countries. Finland is right here, and then that it's much further. So it's a little more advantageous for them to fight on this front line than it is for them to flow forces into this area, if you get what I mean. But now at this point, the red team is pretty depleted, and yeah, the really only thing they have going for them is that they're all really still one front, and the blue team is kind of divided into three with the Great Britain area, Andalusia, and the rest of the blue team Europe area. And the red team, they definitely have stronger countries overall, but I feel like the geographic situation alone of the red team will definitely cause a lot of the weaker countries to eventually capitulate, which will eventually lead to the red team losing on those allies, and they'd have to make up gains elsewhere. As for the blue team, they have, I guess, really only a few weak countries. Germany is definitely one of those. Poland at this point has become one. Andalusia is certain to become one as more forces begin to focus on that front there. Western Europe alone, this area here is more than enough to wipe out Andalusia. I feel like France and maybe even these two coastal countries, Brittany and this guy, are enough to help out the Andalusians entirely. So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, let's head over to this front where I'm going to reflect that as the eastern coast of the Andalusians will kind of just be taken. They said they fortified it. Turns out that wasn't as strong as they previously stated. From here, we're going to see more failures on the coastline over here in Galicia. As forces will now be forced to fall back past these two major cities. And yeah, it's at this point that the Dutch are stretching their resources and more losses will be seen as this Italian country will basically be wiped off the face of the earth, and the front line in Germany will begin to turn against them. And this major city here will fall over, which will once again divide the red team into two. From here, the front line primarily focuses on Denmark, which becomes easy prey as the Norwegians have moved most of their assets to fighting into Poland. We're going to see all of mainland Denmark falling over to the Germans. From here, we're going to see this Danish island falling over to the Germans as well. At this point, the Norwegians have been kicked out of Denmark, which is a huge victory for the blue team. From here, we're going to head over to Eastern Europe, where the remainder of the two Russian countries will go ahead and capitulate to the blue team both respectively. And from here, we're going to see the blue team beginning their invasion into this Archangels country, their former ally. They're going to really quickly reestablish this country because it's basically Finnish forces occupying it. And Finland is more focused, again, on this front line over here. So, yeah. At this point, we're going to see the rest of this area over here falling back over. Nobody's occupying it, obviously, because nobody lives here, so there's no point in occupying it. And yeah, from here, we're going to see forces evacuating from Arkhangelsk. There's no point in staying in Arkhangelsk. It's not worth it to occupy. So yeah, they're just going to leave. From here, we're going to see the red team attempting to reinforce the capital of Poland a little more, but eventually it will fall back under the control of the Polish forces. From here, forces from Ukraine will begin to help out their ally Poland, as they made a similar promise as they did to Astrakhan, where they'd help them out eventually. This is what we're going to see happening here, as forces now begin to move into the St. Petersburg country from almost all sides, except for the west and northern areas. But yeah, we're going to see the invasion of St. Petersburg going pretty well, as they're going to lose two of their major cities. They only have three. And yeah, that country's pretty good. Now looking at the full front line, we can see that the really only area the red team still has the advantage is in Iberia. And with forces now moving over to Denmark again, we're probably going to see Iberia falling eventually. But by that point, we could also see the Dutch being at a very clear disadvantage in their own territory. And yeah, that's going to begin to become evident as German and Irish forces will kick the Dutch back to the border in the central area. This is the first video where the Germans aren't getting entirely annihilated. Their geography is absolutely horrible for scenarios, so that's why they usually fall. But with the rest of this area of Europe, it's a little harder to take over, because then it's like the Napoleonic Wars where you have to run all the way over to Moscow and then they burn it and whatnot. Obviously, the Dutch have not made it to Russia. Obviously, their ally is Russia, so yeah. The scenario definitely could have gone completely differently, but I feel like with the way the blue team ended up getting set up, they were destined to be set up well, because obviously the blue team has a very good foothold in Eastern Europe, and Andalusia in Germany definitely carried early on in the war, as the English countries figured their stuff out and got to begin to ship their very many forces out to help out on those front lines. It definitely caused great enough distraction to heavily limit the two strongest countries of the red team, Norway and the Dutch. I meant to say the Dutch, not Denmark. I almost said Denmark and Norway when I said that, but yeah, Denmark's not a strong country. They're probably one of the weakest, if I have to say. So yeah, don't get any confidence Denmark, at least this world's Denmark, because Denmark in real life technically is larger than Norway because they have Greenland. So yeah, I mean that doesn't reflect strength, but yeah, let's continue on with this scenario. We head over back to Poland because their capital has been captured once again. Despite Ukrainian and Eastern European efforts, Norway is still able to capture this capital for the third time. However, at this point, there's not really a point, as Polish forces are now moving back into other major cities and even Estonia. So yeah, that's gonna happen. And now Norwegian forces have been completely cut off. And they're gonna use these very many ports that are conveniently placed here to completely evacuate out of Poland. And just like that, Poland has retaken their capital, but also all their territory. And at this point, we're going to see the Norwegians and Finns calling for a full evacuation of the Baltic region, as they're going to leave the St. Petersburg country to completely just die. From this point, we see the blue team basically saying we don't care about Scandinavia and Finland right now. We're just worried about the Western Europeans, and this is going to heavily concern the Dutch, who will once again shift their focus back to a different place. They're going to focus on Germany, and they're going to very quickly begin a very blitzkrieg inspired move as they move in and take more of Germany than they have occupied this entire video. Eventually, they will take the capital, and at this point, it's looking like it's over for Germany, but really it isn't. Eventually, forces begin to move into Austria. There's no point in invading this guy. They're just a mountain. So, yeah, it's obvious the Dutch are desperate for victories, as they do definitely see them in Germany, but it's coming at massive resource loss for the red team. At this point, an offensive will happen in Denmark, but Irish forces are holding on to this for dear life. And at this point, the Norwegian Navy barely exists anymore, so they're just going to take yet another Danish island. And yeah, we're going to see Denmark kind of flipping sides here. It's like they traded Denmark for Germany, at least temporarily. Because, yeah, remember that front they just took their forces from? Yeah, that was Iberia, and the Andalusians have completely liberated their own territory and are now pushing into Catalonia. As well as this, they've also launched a massive invasion into the southern area of France, as well as Galicia once more. Galicia at this point is very weak. They've lost a lot of their major cities multiple times now. At this point, we're going to see the Galician military kind of just collapsing. Andalusia hasn't had much of their land occupied this entire war, however, Galicia has. And that's going to lead to this happening, as the country will be split off from the rest of their alliance, and it will inevitably fall in surrender. If you can tell at this point, I'm trying to speed up this video because I have a few more to record, and I'm not looking forward to having to record those because those ones are probably going to have to be more edited. Of course, I'm also going to hopefully stream after this. Hopefully, it's the weekend, so even if I don't stream today, I'm definitely going to stream tomorrow. So yeah, that's definitely a benefit. And this video is not going to take much to edit, of course, because it's going to be a little bit of a lazier video in editing. This video is pretty fun to record, and I'm pretty energized. But yeah, I only have like 5 more minutes to wrap this up before I have to go ahead and feed my dogs dinner. So yeah, I gotta speed this process up and finish up this recording. Heading over to Catalonia, we're gonna see their capital being liberated. This is pretty expected because of the way the front lines were going over here. And yeah, we head back to Germany where that's gonna happen. And the Dutch, they wasted all their resources, and now they're falling back entirely. That is why you don't rush a country who is very populated and very easy to invade, generally. But, yeah, we're gonna see this backfiring heavily, because despite them being pretty easy to invade, now the rest of Europe is focused entirely on you. They don't care about Scandinavia, and you are looking very exposed. They're even gonna go out of their way to liberate the rest of Switzerland. That's bad. New Alpine front will also emerge here, as the Dutch will be forced back out of these two major military bases here. And we're going to see the rest of this blue Italian country capitulating as forces now begin to move into the Lyon country. And yeah, this guy is gone, and this guy is about to be gone as they begin to fold very quickly over to blue team forces. They're going to lose all their major cities, similar to how Arkhangelsk fell. Now France is facing the front line. And so are the Dutch in the north, as they will lose all their Rhineland area, and this militarized area go bye-bye. And really, this would be a lot more complicated if it wasn't the entirety of Europe facing you. So yeah, we're going to see these three major cities that were kind of in a wall falling, then this one, and we see the Dutch capital falling over. And this is basically the end for the red team, as at this point, forces are advancing in Iberia into France. They're forcing their way from Rome Rome, the Italian kind of area into France. And yeah, the blue team just fully connected. Turns out connection doesn't really win you the war because then the other team will break that connection and they'll find a way to connect when you make a stupid mistake. And yeah, we're going to see a landing happening in Brittany. This is a pretty costly landing, but it was very unexpected. They expected it to be at Calais, or I guess the equivalent of Calais. From here, this southern Brittany kind of guy will surrender, and the French capital will fall soon after. From here, we see France and Lyon both surrendering separately, and a massive invasion will come in from the south of the Dutch Republic. From here, we see the north falling over. We're going to see this weird blob in the middle of northern France and Belgium surrendering over, as now it's just the Scandinavians. And let's be real here, these guys are not winning this war, and they're going to be kicked back from this coastline here, as a massive naval invasion will absolutely begin to obliterate these two. Norway will suffer the first blow, and then a massive army will face Finland and wipe their coastline off. From here, we see the Finns going ahead and surrendering over. They know their time's come. And yeah, at this point, Norway has nothing left really. They're going to face an invasion over here. There are going to be multiple landings near their capital. At this point, we're going to see the Norwegians finally giving in and surrendering over to the blue team. Now, I'm going to be honest, that ending was really rushed, and I'm sorry. I obviously don't have time. I have to feed my dogs in less than a minute. So, yeah, my alarm's about to go off, and I want to thank any of you who somehow managed to make it to the end of this video. And yeah, hopefully I can make more scenario videos like this that will be very fun to do. And yeah, thank you all for watching. And hopefully the next video doesn't feel the same way rushed in this aspect. And yeah, have a great day.